What's good? What's good? This your boy AJ of the Deep Thought, back at it again, once again. How y'all doing, YouTube? How y'all doing? We back at it again, man. Always remember, man. Subscribe to the page, like the videos, and always make sure you hit that post bell notification if you like my content. So now, what's up? How we doing, man? Today we finna talk about this top 50 greatest rapper list that came from Billboard and the Vibe magazine, man. And the simple fat reason why we absolutely positively,
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care. Jerry.
We don't care about that damn list. You feel what I'm saying? So this is a segment called We Don't Care, as we talk about things that really doesn't matter for us nor the culture. Just because white people say it matters doesn't mean that it matters to us. All right. So Billboard last week, maybe about 2-3 weeks ago, started with a top 50 greatest rappers of all time list, ensuring love and respect to the 50th anniversary of hip hop. They finally announced the top 10 and top 5 spots sometime last week, coming to the end or beginning of this week. Some people was alright with it. Some people did not like it. So people got mixed feelings. But today I'm here to talk about why that list does not matter and why we should not be hell-bent upset over that list. As you may know, Ice Cube and many others slammed the list, saying that, it don't matter. They not hip-hop, so their list doesn't matter. And I absolutely agree. The last thing I'ma ever think about when it comes to a Billboard is lists, rappers list. Because in my eyes, they only gonna pick artists that had some of the best records. I mean, not just best records, but sold the most records. So they list to me is gonna be more biased of who sold the most anyway. It ain't gonna be about lyrical ability. It ain't gonna be about delivery. It ain't gonna be about the flow. It ain't gonna be about the metaphors. It's gonna be about record sales, because that's basically what a list is based off on. Billboard, you see, as you pay attention to the actual picture, it got Billboard first, then Vibe. Vibe back in the day was a credible magazine that was all about hip-hop culture. You know what I'm saying? But people don't really read magazines no more. So, I mean, do anyone care about the Vibe nowadays? But anyway, Billboard, they called the shots on this list, man, and they made the decisions of who they felt like was the top 50 of greatest rappers of all time. So this is going to be a two-part. I'm going to break down the top 10. Then we're going to talk about everybody else. And why I feel like Billboard should have never made a list. And if they made a list, they should have did it by era and not by all time. Because again, when it comes to music is very subjective. And when it comes to hip-hop in itself, is very subjective. So people going to like a certain way about a person when it comes to a certain thing. Everything ain't the same for everybody. So somebody gonna feel differently. So we're gonna go and get right ahead and get started with this. We're gonna go and jump right at it. You know what I'm saying? We ain't finna play with it, because there's a lot of people that feel a certain way. And also remember,
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care. Jerry.
remember that we don't care. Remember that we don't care. Alright. Starting at the number 10 spot, as y'all may know, in this list they got Nicki Minaj number 10 as one of the greatest rappers of all time. Now let me say this. I have nothing against Nicki Minaj. I think she had a run that was better than most female artists. But to tell me y'all want to put her number 10, to me, it's kind of blasphemous. You know what I'm saying? There's other MCs that could have been on this 10 list. And I'm not saying it because she's a female, because that ain't the case. That's a lot of females that can go. Shit, I know females that go way harder than Nicki Minaj. You know what I'm saying? But they ain't on the list, so they don't matter. I mean, they matter, but that's my personal list. But again, we all know Nicki Minaj, she was one of the most top-selling female artists of the last 21st century. You know, she came out at a time when there was not really that many female artists rapping. You know, if you can think about it, like around 2009, 2010, it wasn't too many female MCs rapping. It was a few of them, but they weren't going to give them the shine like they gave Nicki Minaj the shine. So, you know what I'm saying? She did what she did, and she ran with it, you know, so it is what it is. Number 9 is Snoop Dogg, which I figured they was going to probably put Snoop Dogg in the top 10. You know, Snoop Dogg is literally the most popular MC of all time. If you don't know no other rapper, you know who Snoop Dogg is. You might not know him for rapping, but you know him from TV, you know him for movies, you know him for a whole lot of stuff. Snoop Dogg has his face in everything. You know what I'm saying? Snoop Dogg came up prominent, you know, in the early 90s with Dre. One of the first artists to be signed with Death Row. Dropped a classic album, The Doggy Style, and, you know, things got rocky around the mid-90s until he got signed with Master P, and he was able to resurrect himself from that, and he changed his whole game, you know what I'm saying? And Snoop Dogg was able to keep himself out of trouble, and he kept rocking it ever since. So, there's no knock on Snoop. You know, Snoop, I put him on the list. Would I make him top 10? Well, hey, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Drake. Now, this is when things get kind of tricky for me. Now, if I don't remember, a lot of you hip-hop heads, I'm only talking to hip-hop heads, wasn't y'all the main ones coming for Drake, saying Drake, he ain't a rapper, he didn't write his rhymes? Okay. Because I remember this vividly, especially when Drake and Meek Mill had the beef. Meek Mill came out and said Quentin Miller wrote his rhymes, and Quentin Miller came out and confirmed that he wrote some of his well-known songs. Billboard, why in the hell would y'all put Drake number 8? Now I understand Drake is one of the biggest stars that came out of hip-hop in this 21st century, just like Nicki Minaj. But no knock to Drake. I know he's been a chop target ever since like 2009, 2010. Why would y'all put him on the list? Not just put him on the list, but you got him top 10. Don't get me wrong, Drake is a dope artist. I fuck with Drake. But I can never ever consider Drake being the greatest rapper. I just can't do that. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of other people y'all could have used besides Drake. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's very disrespectful that you use Drake in a top 10 category when it comes to greatest rappers of all time. That's just my personal opinion. Lil Wayne, now, for folks that don't know, when it comes to Wayne, I have a mixed relationship when it comes to Wayne. I was a fan of Wayne back when he was real Lil Wayne, when he was like 11, 12 years old, and the only song he had was Holly Grove. We talking about 1993, 94. You dig what I'm saying? Didn't nobody know who Wayne was at that time. And at that time, Wayne was part of a group. It was him and BG, which ironically, the group was called the BGs because they couldn't use their names on the records. So once they broke out of the group, that's when Wayne became Lil Wayne, and he been doing this thing now. I can't argue with Wayne being number 7 because when Wayne came out back in 2006 and 2005 and 4 saying he was the best rapper alive, he was the best rapper alive at that time. And because, you know what I'm saying, and a lot of artists that came underneath Wayne really try to copy and mimic Wayne's style. From the tattoos to the dreads to the flow to him trying to freestyle and stuff. A lot of people just, you know, they became big Wayne fans, you know, and Wayne became the wave for a long time for a lot of people. So I'm not really mad about that, you know what I'm saying? It's just, it is what it is. Again, this is Billboard's list, not my list, so it really doesn't matter. Number 6, they got Biggie. Well, we all know Biggie. And if you ask anybody, most people would tell you Biggie was the most complete MC that ever lived, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, he lost his life early, you know, at the age of 22 or 23. He died in 1997, you know what I'm saying? And he only dropped 2 albums, but those 2 albums are some of the most classic albums that ever came out of hip-hop, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of how you feel about Big and how you feel about him being this close in the list, you know, it is what it is. Do I feel like Biggie should be higher? Well, hey, it may be, you know, that's my personal opinion. But, you know, Biggie, he deserved the top 10 spot no matter what, you know what I'm saying? Biggie put in enough work where you can't deny him, you know what I'm saying? He left an impact, so it is what it is with Big. Now we finna get to Muddy Waters. Eminem at number 5. Now there's gonna be a lot of people that's gonna be like, man, what Eminem doing at number 5? Look here, man, when it comes to Eminem, man, his career has always been kind of iffy to me. Cause he first came out, he was a protege of Dr. Dre. He dropped What My Name Is, you know, that blew him up, gave him traction. But Eminem, once he dropped the Marshall Mathers LP, the first one, that's when he became a worldwide phenomenon. He went diamond, and the man literally became a fucking global phenomenon just off that one album. And along the line, Eminem kind of dropped some okay albums. He kind of dropped some not so great albums. And once you realize he had a pill addiction, his albums became whack. But Eminem was able to get himself cleaned up, came back, and he regained whatever he had. You know what I'm saying? But, you know what I'm saying? If you ask me, do I feel like Eminem should be top 5? Well, it all depends on how you feel about Wayne. Me personally, how I feel about him, he can be in the top 10 somewhere. Will he be in my top 10 personally? No. But that don't mean he won't be in the top 10 or top 5 list in someone else's eyes. You know what I'm saying? So you can't deny Eminem for, you know, you can't deny them for putting him in them top 5. You know what I'm saying? So now Tupac. Now I know a lot of people is going to feel some type of way about Pac being number 4. Because, you know, especially us Tupac fans, we're going to be like, man, Tupac number 1, man. Ain't nobody left no impact like Pac, man. Blah, 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 blah. And I feel that. I really do feel that. I'm going to say this. If it was my list, Pac would be 1. If it was my personal list, Tupac would be number 1 all day long. But this is the Billboard's list, and this is how Billboard feels. So they felt like Tupac is number 4. Don't come at me, come at Billboard. Cause if you been a part of my channel for the last 6 to 7 months, you know how I feel about Tupac. So you can kill that noise if anyone want to jump in these comments about that. So we all know Pac. We all know his impact. We all know what Pac meant to the game. We all know what Pac did. So we ain't gotta talk about that. We can move on to the next of the top 3. Now, top 3, I'm kind of enraged of the top 3. And I'm finna show you in a minute. Now, when it comes to Nas, we all know how Nas is. Nas is one of the most decorated MCs that ever came out of the game. You know, he is the only one of his era that has been relevant long enough to smell his flowers, to get his flowers, and to deserve all his flowers. You know what I'm saying? From dropping Illmatic to, you know, going against Jay-Z and so many other MCs. He been able to stay relevant. He been able to keep his head up, and he's been able to drop classic music. His last 4-album run has been some of the greatest. Has been some of the best albums of the last few years. You know what I'm saying? Nas had a greater album run than a lot of your new favorite rappers. You know what I'm saying? So you can't deny Nas, no matter how you feel about him. So now we finna get to some fucked up waters. Now, Billboard has decided to put Kendrick Lamar number 2. Now, before I go any further, let me say this. When it comes to hip hop and where we at today in hip hop, and things you see and the things that's going on, I can understand why they would put Kendrick Lamar number 2. But at the same time, I feel like Kendrick Lamar has not done enough to become number 2. Let me explain. Because I know the Kendrick Lamar fans might jump down my throat. Check this out. If that's the case, if Kendrick is number 2 on this list, because we all know the top 3 rappers of the generation that just passed, of this generation, is, you know, Cole, Kendrick, or Drake, depending on who you'll say first or second or last. Alright. I'm going to get to my point in a minute. If you feel like Kendrick is number 2, why would they put Cole lower than so many others, but yet they feel like Kendrick is number 2? You know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. Kendrick, he's one of the only MCs to win a Pulitzer Prize for his rhymes. That's a high regard. He has sold a lot within his career, you know, especially when you think up against Kendrick and J. Cole. I mean, Cole and Drake. But I still feel like Kendrick got a long time to go. You know what I'm saying? The last album that Kendrick dropped, that was the last album Kendrick dropped in about 5 years. Kendrick did not drop an album in about 5 years before he came back out with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. You know, and I understand he got a big of a fan base where he don't have to drop as many. Hell, Cole don't do it neither. But at least he do would give you a feature every now and again to make himself be shown and known. Kendrick hasn't done any of that in the last 5 years before dropping this project. So I honestly feel like he don't really deserve that 2 spot. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I personally feel. People can feel however they want to feel, but this is how I feel personally. And as far as number 1, we should already know who they was going to make number 1. You already know they was going to make Sean Jay-Z Carter number 1. I mean, it's only right. But that ain't the question. The question is, do y'all feel like Jay-Z deserves the number 1 spot? Me personally, it all depends on how you see it. Now, if we going by album sales, if we going by not just the album sales, but we going by the culture impact and the business, then you can say, yeah, Jay-Z is number 1. You know, because ain't nobody learned the game better than Jay-Z, you know. As you know, Jay-Z, he dropped 9 albums in 9 years, and he went platinum or gold with them junks, you know what I'm saying? Jay-Z even though he never ran an era in his time, you know, but he has always been around. You know what I'm saying? We all know about his 14 Billboard 200 #1 albums. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Billboard made this list strictly off album sales. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not hard to see, because if you read the liner notes, you can easily read the accolades, because this is basically why they made this list. You know what I'm saying? You read the accolades, it say that Hov has 14 Billboard 200 #1 albums, the most among solo acts, and over 140 million records sold. You know what I'm saying? So you know they're gonna use that, you know, for their list. Then, of course, he was the first rapper to ever be inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. So they use this type of stuff for these type of lists and whatnot. That's why I say these lists doesn't matter, because what maybe matters to Billboard don't matter to regular guys like me. Me personally, Jay-Z will be top 5. He is in my top 5, but I can never make him #1. Because when it comes to me, it's more than just how many records you sold. It's your impact and how you felt when that music hit you. The same way Jay-Z music hit me is not the same way Nas music will hit me. The same way Kendrick Lamar music hit me will not hit me the same way when it was J. Cole or Tupac or whoever. So you feel how you feel regardless of whatever you're looking for. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I feel about the whole matter when it comes to the whole thing of the top 50 greatest rappers. And you know what I'm saying? So people gonna feel how they want to feel, and it is what it is. You can't change that, because again, music is subjective as hell. So it don't really matter. Just because Billboard come out with a top 50 list doesn't mean it's the end all to be all. They list really don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it ain't credible MCs. Now, if y'all would have did this list with MCs from each era that was around when them particular MCs was doing their thing, then I can see why it'll be credible. But you just grab a handful of people talking about make a list, they gonna pick off who they like personally, and because it's Billboard, they gonna pick off who sold the most records. It's that plain and simple. And that is the reason why the Billboard Vibe Top 50 Greatest Rappers of All Time list absolutely, positively does not matter. Because why?
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care. Jerry.
We don't care about that goddamn list. And that's just how I feel. So yeah, man, that's the video, man. I'm gonna hit y'all, man, with the part 2 when I break down the rest of the top 50 list. I just had to get the top 10 out the way, but I'm gonna break down the full top 50, starting at 50, and we're gonna end at about, you know what I'm saying, we're gonna start at the 50 spot, and we're gonna work our way all the way until we get back to the 10th spot. So y'all be looking out for that video, man. This your boy AJ, man, of the Deep Thought. Y'all keep checking me out, man. Keep showing love, man. Peace and one love.